What's up, everybody? Jesse here with a quick tutorial on kinetic typography. Now, I was trying to think of some clever way to illustrate what kinetic typography is, but my mind went blank and I couldn't come up with anything. So let's just jump right in. Okay, so let's just jump in here, and if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and I'll be sure to call on you. Kinetic typography, that's such a pretentious sounding term, but what it means is it's essentially moving text. It's this animation technique mixing motion and different fonts and typography. And what's cool about this technique is because you have the ability to animate the words, you can illustrate the idea behind the word through the motion that you give the word. So, for example, if the word is fast, you can make that text fly across the screen really quick. If the word is disappear, you can make the word disappear. You can make the word disappear, if that makes sense. You can fade it off the screen. That wasn't a very good example. So let's look at some examples of kinetic typography that you may have seen out in the world. So this one's from Ford.
I figure the engineers who built the all-new '09 F-150 are probably the same guys we all cheated off of in science class.
Right. So there's this real play of the visual and audio going on at the same time. Probably one of the most current examples of kinetic typography would be this music video that hit the web a few months ago. Oh, that's loud. And if you just go onto YouTube and kinetic typography, there's a lot of examples here. So I've been doing this a bit for some of my commercial work. It has a real kind of like edgy punchiness to it, and it works well for this particular client. So let's just jump in and create a little kinetic typography project, and I'll show you some tips and tricks, or tricks and tips, depending on how you roll. The first thing I want to say is that you may notice that it is now, there's sort of a fuzz in the background of this recording in the audio. I had to turn the air conditioning on because it is so hot today. Look at that. 103. Ridiculous. So I apologize for the audio quality, but I gotta have the air on or I will melt. So let's make some magic now. I had Lynn call my phone and leave me a voicemail. I said, give me something about kinetic typography. And this is what I got.
Kinetic typography is so last year.
And so that's what we're going to use. You can click down and see the waveform here. This is the waveform we're going to use to sort of be a visual guide to where the endpoints of the words are going to go. I should also say that you do need to have some sort of familiarity with After Effects to follow along here. I'm not going to call out every mouse click and every shortcut that I'm using. This is more of just to get the general idea of how to put something like this together. Thankfully, it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. And you start with text objects that are all on their own layer. So let's go ahead and create that right now.
Kinetic typography.
So without any regard for the placement, I'm just going to create these words, and for the record I'm using, what font is this? A body MT condensed. Let's go Futura. Is that what I want? Let's try that. That's kind of been my font of the week, Futura. What am I doing? Oh yeah, I'm creating the words on, it's important to have each word on its own layer so you can animate them separately. So let's do that right now.
Kinetic typography.
By the way, Command T is the shortcut for the text tool. Kinetic typography is so last year. Oops. Year. Period. Okay. Kinetic typography is so last year. She's a wannabe hipster. Okay, so now endpoints. Now using this waveform as a guide, I'm simply going to move the endpoints of each layer to correspond with the endpoint of the word.
Kinetic.
And you can do that by clicking and dragging the layer, or you can use the left bracket key and it'll set the endpoint automatically to where the time indicator is.
Kinetic type.
I hope you guys can hear me okay. All I hear is the air conditioner right now, buzzing in my ears.
Typography.
A sweet, sweet, cool buzz.
Typography. Typography
Is right in there somewhere. That's so last
year.
I want the text to come up right when the word begins in the audio portion. Sometimes I'll adjust it if there's a quieter or softer syllable at the beginning of the word, and sometimes you can move the text to hit the portion of the word that is emphasized, and that gives it a little bit more punch and makes it feel like it's timed out a little bit better. But already we have something that's starting to get somewhere.
Kinetic typography is so last year.
Not bad. Is a little late.
Is
Okay, so now we need to do some layout here because that looks bad. That looks bad. Now, you should know that I am not a designer, but I'm a big fan of design. But please take my designs with my layout here with a grain of salt, because when it comes to design, I'm just sort of mashing the keyboard really with my big Neanderthal fists that I have. But let me give you a few tips on design. Now that I've told you I'm not a designer, I'm going to hit Command R to bring up these nifty rulers here, and you can click and drag just like in Photoshop and make some awesome little grids here. Oh, I should say that it might be easier to do the design ahead of time in Illustrator and then just import your Illustrator project as a composition into After Effects, and you'll have your whole layer stack there, and you can get started animating right away. I kind of like using After Effects to do the design, because sometimes the way that I animate the words sort of informs what the final design looks like, and it's kind of hard to predict that stuff in Illustrator or Photoshop. So basically what I'm starting with here is I'm just going to sort of create some different word sizes and try to get sort of a grid pattern going. And I'm using these guides. They're kind of hard to see because they're blue on green. So let me make a black layer here so you can see those better. Okay, so now I'm not going to make you watch me limp along with the design necessarily. I've got, just like in a cooking show, I've got one already laid out. So I'm going to pull that out of the oven right now. Okay, so in the interest of time, I've just sort of sped forward here. That's my final layout, and that's what I'm going to work with for animating this stuff. Now, notice that I broke up typography into the different syllables. So here's what we have so far.
Kinetic typography is so last year.
Now, for the fun part. So what I want to do is animate this block of text as the words come in. So you may have the first word kind of be big and full screen, and then as the next word comes in, it moves out of the way to make room. Sort of gives it that dynamic feel that you saw with at the beginning of this video. So create a new null layer or null object, and I'm going to select all the words here and parent those words to the null object. Okay, so now by moving or scaling this null object, all the children layers or the parented layers follow suit. Okay, so let's add some sauce. Okay, so the first word is That is a word that I am fond of. You'll hear me say that a lot in this tutorial. So let's move that right to the center. Kablamo! Let's make it big. Too big. Now remember, I'm using the null layer. I'm moving the null layer around. I'm not moving the actual... I'm not touching the layer. It's parented to the null layer, and so I'm going to be animating the null layer.